Lagos midnight. The rain was falling hard, that heavy cold rain that drowns every sound in the city. The streets were empty, and only the shadows of tall trees swayed in the wet light. At the gate of a large house, an elderly woman stopped. Her clothes were torn and faded, and she had no shoes. Her hair clung to her face in wet strands. She trembled as she looked around, as if asking the whole world for forgiveness. She took a long breath and knocked on the gate. A moment later, the door opened. In the storm stood a young African woman, an umbrella in her hand, a tired but gentle smile on her face. The old woman spoke in a shaky voice. "My child, could you please let me sleep in a corner of your home tonight? I cannot stay out in this rain. Just a corner, just one night." The young woman looked at her for a moment. There was no hesitation in her eyes. She held the umbrella over the old woman's head and said, "You cannot stay out in this rain. Come inside." Something moved in the old woman's heart, but she said nothing. She walked inside, and at that very moment her eyes stopped on a small locket hanging around the young woman's neck. The locket was old, made of brass, with a special mark engraved on it. The young woman's face suddenly changed. Wait a minute. Where did you get that locket?" The old woman's breath caught in her throat. "What do you know about this locket?" The young woman's eyes filled with tears. She was silent for a moment, then spoke in a low voice. "This locket was with my father, on the night he left us forever." The two of them looked at each other. And in that moment, a story began that had been buried for 18 years, a story that connected two families, and a test that no one knew was really meant for someone else. The old woman's name was Ngozi Okafor. That name lived on the lips of the wealthiest people in Lagos. She was the owner of Okafor Holdings, the mother of a billionaire, and one of the most powerful women in the city. But tonight, in this wet night, she was just a homeless, helpless old woman. And this disguise was her own choice. 2 days earlier, Ngozi had been sitting in the large drawing room of her house when her son Kofi walked in and said, "Mama, I want to marry Zina." Ngozi picked up her cup, then slowly set it down. "Are you sure she loves you? Not your money?" Kofi smiled. "Zina has never once asked me about my money. Not a single naira." "People don't always show you the truth, Kofi. I know her mama. I've known her for 2 years. Ngozi was silent. Then she asked the question that changed everything. "Then, why are you afraid to test her?" Kofi was surprised. "Test her? How?" "Like this," Ngozi said. That very night she made her decision. If she wanted to know the truth, she would not be Ngozi Okafor for a few days. She would simply be an ordinary, homeless, hungry woman. She would see for herself what kind of heart Zina really had. "If I want to know the truth," she said to herself in front of the mirror, "I cannot remain Ngozi Okafor. From tonight I am just a homeless woman. Let's see what Zina's heart is really made of." And that night, the very night she stood at that gate, the greatest test of her life began. She thought she was testing Zina. She did not know that she was standing in front of her own past, and that locket, that small brass locket, would lead her to the secret she had kept buried for 18 years. The first night's test was not easy. Ngozi sat on a bench in the park near Zina's house, hungry, tired, and soaked. All the beliefs of her whole life were being tested at this single doorway. She thought Zina would look at her and look away the way rich people in this city looked away from the homeless. But Zina stopped. She was passing through the park, carrying 2 bags of food. She saw the old woman sitting alone on the bench, alone, hungry in the dark, and she walked straight toward her. She opened one of her bags and said, "Auntie, please eat. I bought 2 meals. This one is for you." Ngozi stared at her. "You don't even know me. Why would you help me?" Zina sat down on the bench right beside her, completely at ease. "You don't have to know someone to help them, Auntie. Hunger doesn't need a name. But what if you get nothing in return? Even then, you'll know I did the right thing. That's what my father taught me." Ngozi's heart sank. A woman who was not rich herself, because Zina's home was small, her job was ordinary, was giving her food to a stranger in the dark. Ngozi took the food slowly and went home that night thinking deeply. Maybe Kofi was telling the truth, but she could not trust so quickly. Her 18 years of life had taught her that people always change their faces. The next night she ran her second test. She was sitting on the same bench when Zena passed by again. This time Zena recognized her and stopped. "Auntie, where did you sleep last night?" "Wherever I found a place, my child." Zena's face changed when she heard that. "That's not right. That's not safe at all. Come with me. I'm taking you to my home." Ngozi was astonished. "You would take a complete stranger into your home? If I have room, I cannot leave you." "Outside." "My home is small, auntie, but tonight you will be safe here. That is my promise." Ngozi went with her. Zena's home was truly small, one room, a tiny kitchen, old but clean things. She gave her own bed to the old woman and slept on the floor herself. Ngozi watched this with her own eyes, and her heart broke. This girl had so little, yet she kept giving. "You have so little, yet you share everything?" Ngozi asked. Zena smiled. "My father always said, even when you have little, share it with someone in need. Because the one who has been hungry understands another person's hunger." Ngozi's eyes grew wet. "What was your father's name, my child?" "Daniel Mensa." Ngozi's senses left her. That name, she knew that name from somewhere. It felt like the floor was slipping from under her feet. She steadied her voice and asked, "What did your father do for work?" "He was an accountant," Zena said, "at Okafor Holdings." Ngozi felt as if someone had slapped her. The same company. Her own family. Okafor Holdings. Yes. But after that, his whole life was destroyed, auntie. He was accused of stealing money from the company. Did you believe he was innocent?" Zena's eyes filled with tears. "I always knew he was innocent, even when the whole world was laughing at him. My father was not a criminal. He was just afraid. On his last night he was very afraid, as if he knew something was going to happen." Ngozi was silent. A storm was rising inside her. She was conducting her test, but the test had led her to the very secret she had shut away 18 years ago. Daniel Mensa, the accountant of Okafor Holdings, accused of theft, and Ngozi herself was part of the family that had accused him. Ngozi did not sleep that night. As soon as morning came, she made her decision. She would go to the root of this secret herself. If the truth was that Daniel was innocent, then who had destroyed him 18 years ago? And why? Ngozi started working from early morning. She asked for the old records of Okafor Holdings, those files that had been gathering dust for 18 years. Every person in the company was surprised that Madame suddenly wanted such old papers. But Ngozi told no one. She sat alone in her office, opening one document after another. And there she found what she never expected: the original interview recording of Daniel Mensa. On the file it said Daniel had confessed. But in the recording, Daniel was clearly saying he was innocent. He was shaking like a leaf, insisting that the money had never reached him, that someone was framing him. And on that record was the signature of Marcus Adiemi. The same Marcus who was now the most powerful man in the company. Ngozi played the recording twice, then a third time, and every time her heart pounded harder. If this recording was true, then the decision made 18 years ago had been wrong. And her own family had a hand in that wrong decision. Meanwhile, Zena was also searching through her father's old things. She opened her father's old chest. Memories came out with the dust. And in that chest she found an envelope she had never seen before. There was no name on it, just one letter written on it. A. "What does this mean, Papa?" Zena whispered to herself. "Why did you hide this? Whose name is this A?" And then one night an envelope appeared under her door. On it was written, "Stop asking questions about your father, or the consequences will be bad." Zena was afraid, but she did not stop. She called Kofi immediately. As soon as he heard, he said, "Lock the door. I'm coming right now." When Kofi arrived, Zena's body was trembling, but there was fire in her eyes. "Kofi, I'm scared, but I cannot step back now." If someone is this afraid of the truth about my father, it means the truth is very big. Kofi held her hand. Whoever is threatening you will now have to deal with me. We will find the truth together. I promise. All three of them, Ngozi, Kofi, Zina, were quietly moving toward the same truth. Ngozi searched from inside the company. Zina and Kofi searched from outside. And then came the day when everything met in one place. Ngozi invited Zina to her house. When Zina walked in, Ngozi was sitting alone in the empty drawing room. Zina greeted her respectfully. "Auntie, you called for me." "I thought something had happened with Kofi." Ngozi was silent for a while. Then she steadied her voice and said, "Zina, I want to tell you a truth. And this truth should have been told a long time ago." Zina was confused. "Auntie." Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. "The old woman you met in the park. The one you gave a place in your home 2 nights ago. The one who reminded you of your mother. That was me, Zina. I was that homeless woman." The ground slipped from under Zina's feet. She went silent, just staring at Ngozi, as if she could not understand. You are Kofi's mother. All of this was a test." "Yes," Ngozi said, and her voice broke. "I thought you wanted Kofi for his money. I thought your heart needed to be tested. But I was wrong, Zina. You gave me your food on the first night. You gave me your bed, and I was testing you." There were tears in Zina's eyes, but she was holding them back. "Auntie, I'm not hurt that you tested me. I'm hurt that you hid so much truth. I gave you my heart, and you turned me into an exam." Ngozi's heart broke. "You are right. And that is why I make you this promise today. From today, I will hide nothing from you, and you will hide nothing from me. Between us, there will be no more tests, no more secrets. Only truth." Zina took a long breath. Then she said, "Then tell me, what do you know about my father? Because I know you know something. And it is the very thing no one was supposed to tell." Ngozi opened a secret from her past. "Zina, your father gave me a locket one day, the very locket around your neck. He said, 'Look at the picture inside this locket. When that day comes, you will understand.' For 18 years, I could not understand it. But when you told me last night that I reminded you of your mother, that picture came back to me." She opened the locket. Inside was an old photograph, 2 men standing together shoulder to shoulder like friends. "These are your father, Ngozi said, and this is my husband, Robert Okafor. These two were friends. And inside this friendship there is a secret that could destroy 2 families." Kofi arrived at that moment. The 3 of them decided to search the old chest again, those things Zina's father had kept hidden for years. And this time they found something that changed everything, a small envelope hidden inside a quilt, and inside that envelope an old key. "This key," Ngozi said in a trembling voice, "is the last thing I saw in my husband's office. On the day your father died." Zina's face turned pale. "In your husband's office? What was my father doing in your husband's office?" "That is exactly what I want to know, my child." The key led them to an old abandoned storage facility across the city. The building had been closed for years, dust, cobwebs, useless belongings. But locker number 214 still opened with the key. Inside was an old chest with Daniel's initials carved into it. When the chest opened, the breath stopped. Inside were the company's original contracts, the very contracts Daniel had objected to, claiming someone was corrupting the company's money. And in that chest was something that changed everything, an old USB flash drive, another letter, and a handwriting verification report. Kofi picked up the report. "It says the signature made in Daniel's name, it was fake. Someone else forged it. And the examiner also wrote down the name of the suspect." "Whose name?" Zina asked. Kofi stared at the report. His eyes grew wide. "Robert Okafor. My father." Silence filled the room. Ngozi covered her mouth with her hand. "This is impossible. Robert would never have done this. He was Daniel's friend." But the USB opened more. Kofi plugged it into the laptop, And there it was, everything that had been hidden for 18 years. The company's financial transfers. The very money Daniel was accused of stealing, that money had never gone into Daniel's account. It had been transferred to other accounts, an account opened in Daniel's name that Zina never knew about. And every month, money went from that account to another person. Strangely, all those transfers were in Daniel's own name to his own old address. This is all a lie. Zina's voice was shaking. My father never took a single kobo. Someone used his name to create that account. This is the secret that destroyed his life. There was also a password-protected file on the USB. The riddle said the person you trust most knows the answer. Kofi remembered a saying of his father: a family is built not by blood but by trust. He tried that word, family. The file opened. Inside was a video. And in that video, Daniel Mensah himself was there. Tears streamed from Zina's eyes. She was seeing her father's face for the first time in 18 years. In the video, Daniel looked at his daughter and smiled the same gentle, sad smile Zina remembered. If you are watching this video, he said, then perhaps I am no longer in this world. Zina, if you are hearing this, remember I never left you. Zina's voice broke. Papa, I knew it. I always knew it. The man behind the accusation against me was inside this company, Daniel said. But before I say his name, you need to know another truth. Ngozi Okafor is not the woman you think she is. She never betrayed anyone. But for years she was made to believe a lie. Ngozi put her hand over her mouth. My name. Why is he talking about me? Ngozi was told that her father's death was an accident, Daniel said. But it was not an accident. Ngozi's father had uncovered a major financial fraud inside this company, and that is why he was silenced. I knew all of this, Zina, but I could not prove his name. That is why I stayed silent myself. And that is why I accepted the accusation. The video suddenly stopped in the middle. Kofi stared at the laptop. Why did it stop? There was more. Marcus, who was standing near the door, turned white. This video did not stop by itself. Someone accessed it remotely and shut it down. We need to leave this place right now. Staying here is dangerous. But Kofi refused to move. We will not run Marcus. Now we will expose him. Whoever is doing all this knows we are here. And if he knows, he is afraid. And a man who is afraid makes mistakes. One more secret was buried in the chest. Zina's eyes fell on an old floorboard that rose slightly higher than the others. There is something here, she said. They lifted the board, and beneath it lay an old mobile phone. This is Papa's phone. Zina's voice choked. I recognize it. This is the phone he had until his last night. Kofi switched it on old, but it worked. The last call on this phone, he said, was made just 10 minutes before your father died. Who did he call? Ngozi asked. Kofi stared at the screen. His eyes grew wide. This call was not to my mother. This call was to my father. Robert Okafor. Ngozi felt the world stop. Robert. The last call. To Robert. There was a small recording on the phone, damaged but audible. Ngozi played it twice, then a third time. And every time that voice echoed in her ears, the voice she had not heard in 18 years. Daniel's voice, full of fear and anger. Robert. What you have done. I will expose it in front of everyone. You promised me this secret would never come out. And then a second voice, the voice Ngozi recognized as her husband's. Daniel, I am trying to save you. Not just you, everyone. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. That is Robert's voice. But he was not threatening. He was talking about saving. What was really happening that night? Zina said softly, for 18 years I believed my father's enemy was your husband's family. But now it seems both families were trapped in this same secret. That same night, something else happened in the company's security department. By morning, a signal came in. Someone had accessed the company system from inside during the night, trying to delete the very records Kofi and Zina had taken. The access was made through a senior executive's ID, and that ID belonged to Robert Okafor. But Robert had not been in this world for 18 years. He was using Robert's ID, Marcus said, because he knew the system. And the camera caught a face only for a moment, but it caught one. Whose face? Ngozi asked. Marcus pointed at someone on the screen. He was Robert's old business partner, David Mitchell. In business, he was known as Ose. Ose. Robert's old business partner, the man whose name they had not heard in 18 years. Ngozi had forgotten that he was even part of this story. But now his face was on the screen, and that face was still searching for them. The next morning, Ose himself came face to face with Ngozi. He had grown old, but his eyes were still sharp. Ngozi asked Ose, "What were you doing in the company last night? And why using Robert's ID?" Ose took a long breath. "Ngozi, you think I am your enemy. But I was not deleting the old records. I was protecting them from being destroyed." "What do you mean?" "The night your son and that girl took the evidence from the chest, someone else also accessed the system to delete those records. I went in to stop them. And yes, I used Robert's ID because I knew the system would never block him. Robert has been dead for 18 years, but his name is still senior in the system." The ground slipped from under Ngozi's feet. Then someone else also accessed it. "Who?" Ose raised his hand. He was holding a drive. "This is what I came to give you. The real records are safe on this drive. And on this drive is everything Daniel wanted to tell the world 18 years ago." Kofi took the drive. "Why did you hide all this, Ose? If you knew the truth, why did you stay silent?" Ose's eyes filled with tears. "Because I was afraid, my son. And the reason is that the people behind all this are still alive. They are still walking in this city today. And even back then, they were powerful enough to destroy a man like Daniel. Who is he?" Ngozi's voice was shaking. "Tell me, Ose. It has been 18 years since this secret was buried. Now bring out the truth." Ose said, "The man you have all considered your greatest benefactor for years, your husband's mentor and business partner. The very man who advised Daniel to create the secret trust so that he could destroy Daniel with it later. Chief Edwal, your family's trusted old friend. He was behind all of this." The room fell silent. Ngozi remembered Chief Edwal, that gentle, smiling old man who had known her husband since childhood, who visited their home, who was at their wedding, who stood at the front of every celebration. And that same man had been hiding all their secrets. But why all this with Daniel? Zena asked, her voice breaking. "What had my father done?" Ose looked at Zena for the first time with full attention. "Your father did what a brave man should do, my child. Chief Adwal was sending the company's money into his own secret accounts in the name of helping poor families, but really for his own profit. Daniel caught him. He believed the money could truly reach the poor, so he himself created a secret trust, legal, clean, honest. But when the chief found out, he plotted to destroy Daniel, and for that plot he needed one more thing: to silence your father." "But why did Daniel stay silent?" Ngozi asked. "He had the evidence. He could have fought." Ose's voice dropped. "Because that night Daniel had only two choices: to save his own life or to save yours. Ngozi, the night you were sent out of the city, that was Robert who sent you, because Robert knew danger was coming. Daniel changed the document that had his name on it on his last night to save you. He took the blame on himself so that the plot would never reach you. And that is why he died, saving your life." Ngozi felt the ground crack open beneath her. 18 years. For 18 years she had believed Daniel was a thief. For 18 years she had kept that secret buried within her own family. And all that time, Daniel, the man she had never known, was giving his life for her. And then one last thing was found in the chest, the letter with Ngozi's name on it. Zena handed it to her, and Ngozi's hands were shaking as she opened it. "If this letter has reached you," Daniel had written then, "I did not fail. Ngozi, I will never leave you alone. And never let Kofi become a slave to wealth. Keep humanity above wealth. That is my final wish." Ngozi pressed the letter to her chest and wept, 18 years of pain pouring out at once. I never knew you, Daniel. I thought you were a thief for all these years, and you gave your life for me. Zina held Ngozi's hand. Auntie, my father did all this by his own choice. He did it because he knew you were innocent, and you are still innocent today. That is his story, that is his love. Ngozi held Zina to her chest. You are not my daughter-in-law. Zina, you are my daughter. And this is the promise I make today. Daniel's name will be cleared in this city from today. The truth that has been buried for 18 years will come out today. Kofi said. And that secret trust Daniel created, it still holds hundreds of millions of naira today. That money does not belong to any single person. It belongs to the poor families whom life never gave a second chance. That is why Daniel created it. And today we will fulfill it. The three of them did exactly that. The trust was renamed the Daniel Mensa Foundation. The money now reached the people who truly needed it, the very work Daniel had started and for which he had given his life. The first help went to a family that, like them, had been forgotten, a family no one had ever given a second chance. And then, after all that, a wedding. Kofi and Zina became engaged. That day, Ngozi saw happiness she had not seen in 18 years, a light in her son's eyes she had never seen before. On the night of the wedding, Zina asked, Kofi, do you ever regret that your mother tested me? Kofi smiled. No, because that test showed us the truth about our family. If you had not given that old woman food that night, we would not be here today. That test was the first chapter of our story, and you wrote the best name in it. Are you still afraid of wealth? Kofi held Zina's hand. No. Now I am only afraid that wealth might become greater than humanity. Zina smiled. Then we will never let it become greater. That night, Ngozi looked up at the sky and said, Daniel, your daughter found the family she deserved, and your son became the man you always dreamed he would be. You are not here today, but your love is alive in this house today. Kofi knelt before Zina. Zina, will you be the truest decision of my life? Will you marry me? Zina's eyes filled with tears. Yes, Kofi, I will marry you. And that night, in that house where secrets and lies once lived between families, only truth and love remained. Ngozi had spent her whole life thinking she was finding the best wife for her son. But in reality, she found everything she had never even dreamed of: a daughter, the truth she had needed for 18 years, and peace for her own heart. And that locket around Zina's neck, it is no longer a mark of a secret. It is a mark of a love that a father left for his daughter 18 years ago, and that now binds two hearts forever. The lesson of this story is that sometimes people lie to hide the truth, but the truth is always alive, and it always finds its way. Ngozi began a test to find out whether Zina's heart belonged to wealth or to love. But that test showed her the greatest truth of her life, the secret buried for 18 years, and the love that lived in her own home, in her own son, and in the girl she never called her own. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe, because emotional, heart-touching stories like this are written for you right here. And remember, wealth does not make a man great. It is his heart that makes him great.